Well, it says on my sheet here, I'm supposed to be delighted to be back for the right versus left section, but Andy 12 has sat here, so I'm not that delighted. Just been having a bit of banter before we came back on. But look, just this week, the Labour Party's their answer to tackle crime in this country and to reduce crime is to let hardened criminals out after serving just a third of their sentence. Andy, is that a good idea?
No, but I mean, what else can they do? They're building more prisons. You know, they're trying to rehabilitate. There's nothing else they can do. I mean, the Tories have left the prison system in a dire state.
Here we go.
To be honest,
Susan.
they have.
He's always going to blame somebody else.
I think the Tories, I mean, they were in power 15 years, a government of which you served in.
Yeah, and the Labour opposition, if I can remember rightly, correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, during those 14 years, were always criticising the Tory government for letting people out too early.
Yep.
Now they're doing not just the same, but actually worse.
Absolutely. And what makes me laugh is that they put a Conservative in charge, a former Conservative MP in charge of this review into sentencing. And so often these reviews are really a way to let the government do what it wants. And I think this is absolutely the case with David Gauke, who they put in. He's one of the wettest of Tory wets. He was opposed to Brexit. He was opposed to controlling immigration. And he's on the record as saying that he thinks sentences should be shorter. So this review is going to happen and the government's just going to say, oh, well, the former Tory told us it's fine, therefore we're going to do it. The whole thing's a complete joke. We need to be much, much tighter. The fact is there are not enough prisons, and the ones that we do have are not staffed adequately. And I agree with you that former Conservative government should have been building more prisons.
Yes.
I'm glad Labour is now. But personally, I think we should be looking at commissioning old cruise liners, for example, and turning those into prisons. Why not? This is an absolute crisis. There are 1,000 places left in men's prisons. That's going to be full by November.
And when these cruise liners are full, Susan, Australia.
Well, get another one.
Go to Australia with them. Is that
the Reform UK's official policy? Is that
Here we
the Reform UK policy?
Twisting words right now.
What is the Reform UK answer, Lee?
Oh, for criminals?
Yeah.
Obviously,
how would you deal it if...
Obviously, build more prisons. But I always go
That takes
back.
a while. Are
you going to listen? Are you going to pay attention? Stop being rude, interrupting. Susan didn't interrupt. I'll tell you what we'll do, Andy. I went to Singapore last year. I've said it many, many times on this show. And in the week I was there, I never saw a police car. I never saw a policeman. And do you know why?
Because they're authoritarian?
Because the deterrents are so great for crime, even petty crime. They lock them up. They even give them lashes still. Now, I don't endorse public caning or flogging or anything like that. That's a bit barbaric. But my point is, if the deterrents are strong enough, people will stop committing crimes. And Keir Starmer, to his credit, last year, it's probably the only thing I've ever sort of, agreed with him, but not totally. During the riots, the Southport riots, those people who were out throwing stones and causing trouble and being horrible, setting fire to buildings, within 10 days they were arrested, tried and in prison. And you know what, Andy? What happened? The riots stopped overnight. Yeah. Overnight, Susan. So deterrents do work.
Yeah, they do. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I think the other thing that might help is if we stop locking people up for silly tweets that they regret. You know, I think that the whole two-tier justice issue is very real, very alive, very much kicking, and I think that's a great shame. It's got to stop, really. But no, this is a long-term catastrophe that's been building up, and I think it needs some very, very quick measures to deal with it. But we can't have a situation where dangerous criminals are not sent to prison because there aren't enough spaces. That's simply unacceptable.
Yeah, when you talk about this dangerous criminals going to prison, but actually in prison, Andy, we have dangerous criminals. We're seeing this nutter from Southport throw in hot water, and I think they mix it with sugar, don't they, and they throw it on people's faces. We've had another one recently, a terrorist in there slashing a prison guard's throat. I mean, for me, we don't have the death penalty in this country, but I would stick these people in solitary confinement, a little latch under the door, lob a bit of snapping, that's food, by the way, if you live in the south, in the morning, a slot bucket, and that's your lot till you drop dead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously...
Would you agree with that, Andy?
I think there should be, further restrictions on genuinely dangerous criminals, but that's a luxury that you get when prisons aren't overcrowded.
But why are these people like this nutter from Southport being allowed to roam freely and have access to things?
Well, I mean, they do have human rights, Lee.
Oh, here we go. The
human rights.
The human rights guard coming out from the left in the corner.
There's a massive difference between human rights and the complete attitude that we have to crime now. Yeah. So, for instance, the new prison that's being built in Glasgow, the new governor is absolutely delighted that this is going to be what he calls the kind of place you could feel comfortable walking into every day, like Costa Coffee. That's what he said. It's got orchards, it's got woodlands. Now, OK, prisoners need fresh air, sunlight, exercise like the rest of us. But this idea that prisons should be be normal places where people feel comfortable. No, that's not what it should be. It's the completely wrong attitude.
So I'm glad you brought up attitudes to crime. I mean, Lee, I think it's rich for the Reform UK party to ever talk. I mean,
this will be a load of nonsense, by the way. But
a
carry
load of
on.
nonsense
Yeah,
that
come on, carry on.
Mr. McMurdoch, one of your backbenchers, was sent to prison for beating up his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Is that a load of nonsense, Lee? I won't take lectures from a party whose a fifth of their parliamentary party has been sent to prison for woman beating.
Yeah, well,
so I just can't take it
If you want to
seriously,
go down that path, Andy, we can also reel off some figures about how many Labour MPs
I
have
was
been
going
to
to say
prison.
there are.
So you're on a sticky wicket.
I'd have a go at them. Are you going to defend
But I believe in second chances.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're a Christian
So
country.
yeah.
We believe in second chances. I think the Labour Party
So Reform
believe...
UK, the party of woman beaters and second
No, they're
chances.
not, they're not, Andy. Don't be so ridiculous. You're letting yourself down now, Andy. We all
I think
make
he let
mistakes.
himself down when he got sent to prison for beating his girlfriend.
We all make mistakes, Suzanne, when we're younger.
I mean, there's mistakes and then there's beating up your girlfriend.
I mean, look, I'd hate to be the arbiter in this
Yeah, no, it's
row
not
here,
arbitrary, it's not
but
arbitrary.
everybody makes mistakes. That's true.
I'll tell you what, Suzanne. While
Personally,
we're on now, and Andy's coming the big one, I want to invite you to come into Parliament and meet with James McMurdoch and discuss this.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Will you do that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Carry on,
I
Suzanne.
mean, personally, I don't think anybody who has that background should be an MP. However, Andy, it is very rich. There are so many MPs in Parliament. You could say the Labour Party is the party of vote rigging and fraud on the same basis.
Unfortunately, the Labour MP isn't sat in front of me lecturing me about voter security.
But the fact is, all political parties, I'm afraid, have got massive skeletons in their cupboard, and I think the whole flipping place needs cleaning up.
Well, this isn't a skeleton in the cupboard. This is a skeleton on the backbenches.
Andy, you've had your say. And why are you at it? Why is at it, Suzanne? What about Sir Keir Starmer when Jimmy Savile were on the prowl doing all this nasty, horrible stuff? Did he turn a blind eye? He knew what was going off. Why wasn't he arrested and charged?
I mean,
is that acceptable?
He was director of public prosecutions. You can't order the
yes,
arrest.
It can. Yes, it can.
It's a police. The police press on the case.
He can make sure that case comes to trial. He was the head. He was the director of public prosecutions. So what are you going to say about that, Andy? This is a man who oversaw Jimmy Savile on the prowl, other celebrities as well. And
he's also prosecuted the first grooming gang.
These are paedophiles that are on the loose and he's done nothing about it.
I mean, that's not true.
Not true.
That's not true. I mean, he was the first director of public prosecutions that went after the grooming gangs.
Well, there are umpteen members of Parliament who have been to jail, have committed serious crimes and escaped jail, and I think anyone could point the finger at any one of them.
Yes.
Like I said, the whole thing is a bit of a cesspit.
Yes.
Politics is a nasty business.
Yes, and it seems that 650 MPs in that place where I work, and there seems to be a high proportion of people getting up to all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, a fifth of your party are women.
A fifth.
The same proportion as the women in your parliamentary party. So
Well, we could talk all day about indiscretions and
indiscretions, woman beating.
Andy, you've had your say, mate. Indiscretions and things we've done wrong in the past. James has admitted it. I think he's going to do a debate on domestic violence as well.
Pro or against?
That's
well, I mean, with his track record, you never know.
That's uncalled for, mate. I mean, that's quite cowardly.
I mean, he's a convicted criminal.
Andy, that's a cowardly thing to say. It's
a cowardly thing to do to beat up your girlfriend.
Listen, it's a cowardly thing to say.
No, I won't take lectures.
No, shut up.
I won't take lectures.
It's a cowardly thing to say when he's not sat there beside you.
I'd say it to his face.
Yeah, when he's sat there beside you, then say it to his face.
I'd say it to his face.
Because that's very cowardly.
I would say it to his face.
Yeah. We're talking about crime here. There are degrees of crime. I think also this idea that people are going to be released early, I think needs to take into account the seriousness of the crime. But what, as I understand it, that Shabina Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, is thinking about doing is if you commit a crime once you've been released on parole, then you have to go back to prison just for a maximum of 28 days. Again, that's another way of saying, well, if you misbehave a bit when you're on parole, don't worry, you'll only do another month inside. That's not the case at the moment. And that also worries me, that's something that's again looking very, very soft on people who actually leave prison and then go on to commit another crime or breach the rules of their parole terms, whatever it might be.
I think fundamentally this is a capacity issue, and Labour are going to be in government for another 4 years. I think, to be honest, it'll take that amount of time to build enough prisons to build that capacity.
How long did it take to build that Nightingale Hospital that nobody ever used?
2 weeks.
It wasn't very long, was it? Why can't we do the same?
Well, I mean, you've got to have significantly more security and more checks.
And just why you've been on your...
It's still a building that goes.
Why you've been on your high horse, Andy, having a pop at somebody who's not here to defend themselves.
Well, Jimmy Savile's not here to defend himself. But you went after Keir Starmer. He's not here to defend himself.
You're making yourself look daft again. So let me just come back.
Going after a woman beater.
I'm going to come back and just say, if you're going to be quiet and stop being rude and interrupting, I want to say something while we close this part of the show. I spoke to James Murdoch at length about this. He told me about the time he went to a young offenders You know, he was a young man, he was 19, he was drunk, there's no excuse, I'm just filling you on the situation. He was, you know, not going anywhere in his life. It happened. He went to a young offenders. He never thought for 1 minute to go to a young offenders or prison for it, for the first offence. He went, and he was in his cell one night. He was in there for a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, I think it was. And he was watching TV, and he saw a lady come on the TV, and it was a girl he went to school with, and she was an opera singer. And she was doing very well out of life. And he said he lay there and he thought to himself, what am I doing with my life? Here's my friend who I went to school with doing really, really well, successful, and I'm stuck in here for doing something disgusting, basically. So he came out of prison, he went to university, got his degree, got a job in the city in banking, met a lady with a child, adopted that child as his own, has gone on to have 4 more children, he's had a successful career, never been in trouble with the law since. He's now become a member of parliament and a great member of parliament, and he's totally changed his life around. So I think that's a great story, a great ending to a very miserable and sad start in life for somebody. I think, yes, he did something horrible, and he's apologised for it, but I think, you know, that's a great story for any young man, 18, 19-year-old, who sat in prison today looking, thinking, where's my life going? You know, in 20 years' time, if they do the right thing, knuckle down, get an education, work hard, have a nice family, get that support, then they can do well in life. And I'm going to end it there, Andy, because I think you've been a little bit nasty. But it's a great end, and actually you should come and see him and listen to his story without having to go on TV. But come